The manga starts in a classroom, where a voice tells Ryoma to go swimsuit shopping together after school. He replies that it's only May and too early for that. If this world were a fairy tale, the protagonist would undoubtedly be Ryuzaki Ryoma, our MC thinks. The voice, now confirmed as Azusa's, adds that she wants Ryoma to see her in a swimsuit soon. A black-haired girl agrees with Azusa, mentioning she's grown since last year, so her old swimsuit won't fit. A blonde girl also agrees, suggesting they all go swimsuit shopping. Our MC lets out a weary sigh. In contrast to his own life, which feels more like a slice-of-life drama, Ryuzaki Ryoma's existence unfolds like a romantic comedy, though it wasn't always this way. Those three girls used to be inseparable from our MC, but once high school began, they gradually started to distance themselves from him. Azusa, his stepsister, developed a deep admiration for Ryoma, affectionately calling him Ryoma Oni-chan. Yuzuki, the second girl with black hair, was his childhood friend who, upon falling head over heels for Ryoma, began avoiding our MC. Despite not being biologically related to Azusa, our MC had always treated her like a true brother. Yuzuki, once self-conscious about her chest size, now confidently flaunts it as a weapon of charm. The blonde girl, Kirari, was another close friend who gave up her passion for reading and altered her personality just to be closer to Ryoma. Reflecting on these changes, our MC wonders if perhaps he could have occupied Ryoma's seat today had he made different choices with each of these girls. But of course that won't happen because Ryouma Ryuuzaki is the protagonist, and our MC, Nakayama Koutarou, is just a background character. That's what our MC thinks as he watches Ryuuzaki effortlessly gather attention. Ryuuzaki then turns to another girl and casually invites her to join them for shopping. It becomes clear that Ryuuzaki doesn't want his harem to consist of only 3 girls. He's intent on expanding it. The girl who was dozing off finally stirs and asks what's going on. Ryuuzaki explains that he and his harem are planning to go swimsuit shopping and extends an invitation to her. Her name is Shiho Shimotsuki, Ryuuzaki's childhood friend. She always wears a stoic expression, which might give the impression of unfriendliness, but it's a demeanor she's had since forever, never laughing or smiling, and speaking only a few words. Despite this, she isn't disliked by anyone. On the contrary, she carries an aura akin to a princess straight out of a fairy tale, the quintessential main heroine. With school ending for the day, Nakayama heads home, wondering if Ryuuzaki and the girls are having fun on their shopping outing. Attempting to focus on his homework, he realizes he can't find his notes. Frustrated, he decides to return to school to retrieve them. Upon arriving back at school, Nakayama finds Shiho still in the classroom, fast asleep. Checking the time, he notices it's getting late and wonders why she hasn't left yet. He debates internally whether to wake her, concerned she might misinterpret his intentions and label him a pervert. After a moment's hesitation, he decides to gently wake her. Just as Nakayama reaches out, a curtain flutters down and covers Shiho. Moving quickly, he removes the curtain, inadvertently waking her up in the process. Nakayama quickly assures Shiho that he wasn't trying to play a prank on her, and swiftly makes a retreat. In her attempt to chase after him, Shiho ends up colliding with some chairs, prompting Nakayama to rush over and ask if she's all right. To his surprise, she reaches out and grabs his hands. This moment marks a significant change as the usually reserved ice princess not only speaks but also smiles genuinely. In a rare moment of openness, Shiho confesses to Nakayama that she's typically nervous around others, which explains her usual quiet demeanor. However, she admits that she feels strangely comfortable and unguarded around him. Grateful for his understanding, Shiho asks Nakayama a heartfelt favor, to become her friend. The next morning, Nakayama wakes up with Shiho's unexpected request still on his mind, feeling optimistic that today will be a good day. Arriving at school, he is warmly greeted by his friend Hanakishi. Meanwhile, Ryuuzaki effortlessly charms his group of admirers, leaving Nakayama and Hanakishi wondering how someone like Ryuuzaki, despite being handsome, manages to maintain such popularity. Reflecting on the dynamics at play, Nakayama concludes that Ryuuzaki's charisma and confident demeanor are akin to that of a protagonist in a romantic comedy. As if on cue, Shiho enters the classroom, her expression serious as usual, prompting Hanakishi to comment on her demeanor. Nakayama considers the possibility that if Shiho starts conversing with him more often, he might inadvertently become the center of attention himself. With this in mind, he resolves to approach their budding friendship with care and consideration. During lunch break, Nakayama notices Shiho looking visibly upset about something. He approaches her and confirms that they are friends, to which she asks why he avoids talking to her. Nakayama explains that he's hesitant because she's shy and he doesn't want to draw attention in public, which might make her uncomfortable. However, Shiho brushes off his concerns, urging him to talk to her regardless of others. Expressing her worry that he might not enjoy being friends with her, Nakayama quickly reassures Shiho, apologizing and admitting that he could never dislike her. Touched by his sincerity, Shiho suggests they start addressing each other by their first names as a sign of their close friendship. Nakayama hesitates at first, but eventually calls her Shiho, which causes her to blush with surprise and happiness. Feeling hungry, Shiho proposes they eat at a secluded spot at the back of the school, where they won't be seen. They find a quiet spot and settle down for lunch. Shiho notices Nakayama only has a simple bread sandwich for lunch. Sympathetic, she offers to share her beautifully prepared bento box with him. Initially embarrassed by her generosity, Nakayama hesitates to accept, but Shiho insists, playfully teasing him and feeding him small bites until he relents. He eventually admits that her cooking is delicious, which makes Shiho blush again, this time from the unexpected intimacy of sharing a meal together. Realizing her own bold actions, Shiho starts feeling embarrassed, but is secretly happy to have shared such a personal moment with Nakayama. His genuine happiness and smile make her realize that she can make someone like him, who considers himself just a background character, smile again. Playfully, Shiho teases Nakayama about his racing heart when she fed him earlier. He tries to deny it, but she mentions she can actually hear his heartbeat. The other day, Shiho tells Nakayama that she has a unique ability to hear sounds that normal people can't perceive. She explains that each human produces a different sound. Gentle people produce clear, pleasant sounds, while scary people emit noises that resemble someone scratching a chalkboard. It's akin to the phenomenon where someone might say they can see sounds or hear colors. While it might sound intriguing to be able to hear other people's feelings, Shiho reveals that it's not always a blessing. She can hear not only the pleasant and gentle feelings, but also the darker, more unsettling emotions like jealousy and lust directed toward her. This constant bombardment of others' feelings isn't always a good thing and can be quite overwhelming for her. To Shiho, Nakayama gives off the sound of chirping birds and a flowing river, which she finds soothing and explains why she's so drawn to him. She reveals that this is also how she knew he was nervous earlier. Embarrassed, Nakayama tries to deflect, saying that Ryuuzaki is a better person than him, but Shiho disagrees, stating that Ryuuzaki's sound is unpleasant to her. Their heartfelt conversation is abruptly interrupted by Ryuuzaki's voice asking someone why she called him out there so suddenly. The other person, confirmed to be Azusa, explains that she called him out because she has something important to tell him. Recognizing the approaching voices, Shiho decides to hide. However, before she can do so, both she and Nakayama are caught by Ryuuzaki, who calls out to her and demands to know what she is doing there. Noticing Nakayama for the first time, Ryuuzaki arrogantly asks who he is and what he is doing with Shiho. The idiot, Ryuuzaki, questions why Nakayama brought Shiho to an empty place and asks what he was doing to his previous childhood friend. Nakayama, on the other hand, is perplexed by why both Ryuuzaki and Azusa are in this secluded area. He starts to speculate if something significant is about to happen. Could it be a confession? Ryuuzaki, seemingly indifferent to Azusa's presence, just shrugs her away and focuses on asking if Shiho is okay. Despite Azusa having forgotten about Nakayama and often avoiding him, he still feels a sense of responsibility as her stepbrother. Nakayama quickly realizes that Azusa has brought Ryuuzaki here to confess her feelings to him, but it's painfully clear that Ryuuzaki only has eyes for Shiho. This realization hits Nakayama hard. He reflects on how, despite his efforts, he couldn't become the brother Azusa dreamed of. He decides that he shouldn't get in the way of her love life, no matter how much it might hurt him to stand aside. With a calm voice, Nakayama responds to Ryuuzaki's question, assuring him that he didn't do anything to Shiho. Shiho, on the other hand, is already feeling nervous and uncomfortable. Ryuuzaki steps forward, trying to grab her arm, but Nakayama quickly intervenes, saying he'll take her to the infirmary. Ryuuzaki, not missing a beat, retorts that it's Nakayama's fault Shiho is feeling sick, insinuating that he must have done something to upset her. Nakayama, maintaining his composure, insists that he didn't do anything to cause Shiho's discomfort. Shiho, trying to defuse the situation, assures everyone that she's okay and can go to the infirmary alone. However, Ryuuzaki disregards her wishes and instead instructs Azusa to take Shiho to the infirmary, completely ignoring the fact that Azusa had something important to discuss with him. Nakayama, seeing Azusa's dejected expression, attempts to inform Ryuuzaki that Azusa has something significant to tell him, but the blockhead remains adamant. He insists that Azusa take Shiho to the infirmary because he wants to have a word with Nakayama. Azusa, despite her own feelings and the urgency of her confession, reluctantly agrees and helps Shiho towards the infirmary. Nakayama feels a pang of worry for Azusa, but he knows that Shiho's well-being must come first. Once they are alone, Nakayama turns to Ryuuzaki and tries to reassure him that he didn't do anything to Shiho, emphasizing that there's no need for concern. Ryuuzaki asserts that Shiho is a misunderstood girl whom nobody truly understands except for him. As Ryuuzaki speaks, Nakayama flashes back to all the moments he's spent with Shiho, realizing that Ryuuzaki simply doesn't grasp who Shiho truly is. Despite Shiho's usual stoic demeanor, Nakayama knows she's just an ordinary girl beneath it all. He wonders if all protagonists in romantic comedies are as naive as Ryuuzaki, with a twisted perception that the world revolves around them. To Nakayama, Ryuuzaki embodies the flaws of a bad harem protagonist, someone who sees others only in terms of their convenience. In an effort to dispel Ryuuzaki's suspicion and hostility towards him, Nakayama decides to play the role of a random background character. He tells Ryuuzaki what he wants to hear, fabricating a story about finding Shiho cute and trying to confess to her, only for Shiho to reject him without a second thought. Nakayama continues the fabrication, saying he suggested starting as friends instead, but Shiho claimed to be unwell and left. Ryuuzaki pats himself on the back before advising Nakayama to give up pursuing Shiho to avoid getting hurt. He then casually suggests that he and Nakayama should also start as friends, admitting he didn't even know Nakayama's name, a fact that even Shiho knew. Despite his inner resentment at playing down his own worth, Nakayama agrees to be Ryuuzaki's friend for Shiho's sake, and watches as Ryuuzaki departs. Even though Nakayama dislikes diminishing himself and acting like a background character, he believes it's necessary because he sees himself as just a mob character and wants to protect Shiho from any further complications. Ever since that day, Ryuuzaki started talking to Nakayama more often, frequently asking how things were progressing with Shiho. Nakayama always responds by saying he doesn't want to push her too much or come across as persistent. In truth, he's been avoiding Shiho to ensure Ryuuzaki won't get suspicious. After school, on his way home, Nakayama reflects on the situation. He thinks to himself that Ryuuzaki doesn't need to be wary of him because, in this rom-com story, Nakayama is just a mob character. He believes the story will inevitably end with Ryuuzaki and Shiho getting together. Even though Azusa and others might have feelings for him, Nakayama feels their love won't bear fruit. Nakayama gets on the bus, deep in thought. Even though Shiho told him to talk to her, he can't risk it because if he does, Ryuuzaki would get suspicious. Suddenly, he hears someone asking for help. He turns around and sees Shiho. She explains that she saw Nakayama leaving the school and tried to catch up with him, but in the process she forgot her wallet back in class. She thanks him for paying her bus fare and calls him a hero. He modestly replies that he's just a mob character, but she disagrees, telling him he's a good guy who likes helping people and that there are many good things about him. She then says if he can't pat himself on the head, she'll do it for him. She pats him on the head and tells him not to call himself a mob character again. This makes him happy, and he thinks that she's just too good for him. Shiho follows Nakayama home and compliments his living room. He asks her if she'd like tea or juice, and she chooses juice. She asks when his parents are coming back because she wants to introduce herself as his friend to them. He wonders if she can do that since she's usually shy, but she confidently says she can. He tells her his parents are on a business trip, and she concludes that he lives alone. She then offers to spoil him whenever he wants, claiming she's a good big sister, though he sees her more as a little sister. After their snack break, Shiho asks where his room is and heads there. She notices the many books in his room and asks if he likes reading. She admits she doesn't read much and apologizes if his room is boring. Shiho reassures him that she doesn't find it boring, but if he does, she can bring some games to make it fun. He says he looks forward to it, but reminds her that they wouldn't have time to play games because midterms are coming up. She gets shocked and insists that a student's role is to play games, exams notwithstanding. She then says she'll study if he teaches her, to which he agrees. Nakayama tries to tell her about Ryuuzaki, but just then, Azusa arrives home.